Selectmen to order. Would you all please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Does anybody have any public announcements? No? Dory, John, no? None. Okay, first on the agenda. We have a continuation of underground storage license at 538 Bedford Street. At our last meeting on September 12th, this board held a hearing to decide whether or not to allow underground flammable storage tanks at 538 Bedford Street. That hearing is closed. Our discussion that night was tabled pending legal opinion on what standard and criteria this board can use to assess the application or evaluate the application. We also wanted to make sure that all the abutters were notified in a timely manner and notified properly. There's nothing for this board to do tonight except for discuss the information amongst ourselves and take action. John, before we just start our discussion, would you like to elaborate on the legal opinion?
Before you start, I'd like to recuse myself from this discussion.
Sure. Okay. Selectman Franny recuses himself.
No recuse for that. We'll let it go. The board wanted the administration, the staff people, to do two things. One was to confirm the timely delivery of the certified mail. According to statute, the items had to be mailed at least 7 days in advance of the hearing. The hearing is scheduled on the 12th. We validated that that information was mailed out. The letters are mailed out to the abutters on September 1st. What you have in front of you is information that basically provides that information to you, that everyone that's highlighted either received it. Now, whether they went down and picked it up or not is entirely a different matter. It was mailed by statute on September 1st. The second was whether or not what are the parameters that the board could act on in relationship to the application for a license for stored flammables. The license is governed under chapters 148, subsection 13, and it provides a local licensing authority with a fair amount of discretion. The board may clearly assess whether the proposed storage tanks would pose a fire or explosion hazard. Although this may be a technical question, that is usually monitored by our staff, our fire chief or the deputy chief. The statute also expressly provides that the board may impose conditions and restrictions on the license, which may include a condition that the license be exercised to such extent and within such period of time as may be fixed by the authority. This language appears designated to prevent an applicant from having a pocket license. In other words, going to get a flammable storage license and not executing that license or not acting upon that license. If this it fails to exercise or for a lengthy period of time, which I've stated, the statute does not elaborate on other conditions, but in the opinion of counsel, these would include prohibiting any expansion of storage without a new license, that the type of tank or delivery system be approved by the fire marshal, which is obviously a standard operating procedure, and that certain fire prevention equipment is on site, as well as where on site the tanks would be located. Case law under 148.13 is also clear that the board may consider other factors, including appropriateness of the location beyond fire hazards. These include public health and safety issues associated with the location. In Davison versus the Board of Selectmen of Duxbury, the Supreme Judicial Court found that the following factors supported the board's denial of a storage permit: the predominantly residential immediate neighborhood, narrow streets, traffic flow in an area already congested, and the presence of other gas stations already in the area. The courts have also cautioned, however, that while such factors may be considered, the general jurisdiction of General Law, Chapter 148 is fire prevention, and the licensing authority should make its decision based on that basis and not rely on the concerns of zoning or other such matters. Chapter 148 also provides two specific appeal processes. A person who feels that they are aggrieved by the granting of the license could appeal to the State Fire Marshal's office, but it is limited to the claim that that exercise or the license may constitute a fire or explosion hazard. The State Fire Marshal has authority to invalidate a license if it appears on appeal to the Fire Marshal that there is this kind of hazard. There is another appeal option, which is the second option, for the neighborhood or the applicant, if the applicant is denied the license or other party that complains of other issues. For example, that the neighborhood is inappropriate for the license, as opposed to claiming that the station would be an obvious explosion hazard. This would be an appeal to Superior Court under Chapter 249, subsection 4. And this would allow the board, the appeal would be allowed under that section. The board would be required to assemble the entire record of its hearing and file it with the court. The court proceeding is limited to the administrative record and that only. The burden is then on the plaintiff, in this case the neighborhood, to convince the court that the board's decision either contains errors of law or is not supported by substantial evidence.
Thank you. Are there copies of this legal opinion for anybody who wants them?
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone on this board have any concerns? They'd like to start the discussion?
I just had the same concerns I brought up at the last meeting, and basically it's the traffic and the public safety issues. I think we have a perfect storm up there. We have 4 lanes, 2 and 2 going, then we have walkers, you have new drivers, you have older drivers at that intersection, and it's already busy as heck, and that area of 18, I know personally, because I lost some pets on that intersection because I used to live there, the cars don't slow down. I mean, that light's fairly new, I think, but I mean, it used to, it's a busy intersection, and my concerns are public safety. You don't have, to that intersection, you got to be adding 3 new businesses. You're going to be adding a convenience store, a drive-through donut shop, and a gas station, and there's nothing I can do about the store or the donut stop, but you know, I think that the gas station just is going to add, you know, flame to the fire, so I'm going to vote against it, so.
Okay. Anyone else, Andy?
I'm of the similar mind as Kenny as far as the public safety issues go. And if you look at opinion from counsel in the Duxbury case, the factors that we have the right to take into consideration are whether or not the neighborhood is predominantly residential, which it is. There's an 85 unit condominium development right next door. There's also seniors housing, which is probably 200 yards down the road. I'm concerned with the street going in and the street going out, the traffic flow. It's a very congested area, and there are other gas stations in the area. If you drive half a mile up the street, there are 2 half a mile up the street, and there are 2 less than a mile down on the south side of Abington. So I think I join with Mr. Coyle in not approving the license.
Kevin?
If I could, I think the issue becomes, at least in my mind, the planning board, I believe, has dealt with the issue of the traffic issue. The issue of traffic has already been vetted at both the zoning and planning board levels. I think when it comes to the issuance of the 148 license, I think town council has been explicit, as well as the court has indicated, that while the other factors are something that perhaps could be considered, the overriding factor right now is that it's a Chapter 148 license. And because it's a Chapter 148 license, again, I would look to the opinion of the fire chief. The chief has endorsed the application. The license has been conditioned already, in terms of the approvals given by the zoning board. And I think we have to merely look to the fact that it's in a highway commercial area. We talk all along about bringing businesses into Abington, and I think here's a perfect example where we have a business that wants to come into Abington. I can point to, I know some of the testimony that was given at the last hearing as it relates to the proximity of the high school. Well, you know, when I was town administrator in Rockland, we have the gas station that is within, you know, you take somebody with a good arm and you can throw a baseball and hit the high school. Again, it's in the central business district. So I think, given in this day's climate with the safety provisions that are available under the fire code, and with the idea that, you know, specifically the license should be granted based on, you know, what the statute says, I think, and I would suggest to the board that when we take the vote, if there is, you know, statements of denial, which has already been expressed, I think they should be enumerated so that, as council has indicated, that the entire record of the hearing will be assembled and put before the court. So, you know, those are the matters that I think are important, and I think for the matters, at least in my mind, relating to the issues according to the statute, as it relates to Chapter 148, as it relates to the fire protection, this is an underground storage license, so therefore it should be, in my mind, relegated to the fire protection issues that's related under the statute. You know, I'll be making a motion to approve the license on that basis.
Okay. Evaluating this application solely on the basis of tank safety, I personally do not believe that these tanks pose a fire or explosion hazard. As far as the traffic is concerned, I believe that the drive-through window is going to be more detrimental than the gas station to the traffic. And there's going to be a drive-through window at that site anyway. Being a highway commercial zone, I have no good reason not to vote in support of these underground storage licenses. I will entertain a motion.
I made a motion to approve.
Okay, second? Kenny Coyle?
You can say.
I'll second it. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, it's a gridlock.
So it fails.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, moving along. Okay. All right, we have approval of the August 29th, 2011 open session minutes.
I will move we approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Selectman Donovan and a second by Selectman Burbine. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. The minutes of August 29th, 2011 open session are approved. And I would entertain a motion to approve the September 12th, 2011 executive session minutes.
Mr. Chairman, there
Yes,
was
sir.
a modification to those minutes to more accurately reflect.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Executive session minutes aren't supposed to be voted on until all the issues in there?
Correct. Not supposed to be released.
Oh, not supposed to be released, they can be voted
approved,
on?
but not, that should have been in my motion, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
So they would not be released?
Not to be released until all matters are resolved.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, and it's a second. Any discussion?
Just on September 12th, they said they were modified. Do we have a copy?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're in, they should have been on your table.
Was that? Actually,
The last section, Mike.
was added.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep, thank you.
All right, any further discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I
Okay.
abstain as I was not present for
Okay.
that session.
Heather, Tori? So, September 12, 2011, executive session are approved. Selectman Donovan abstains.
Did we do the August 29th?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Yes, we did. Okay, moving along. We have the approval of the 33rd St. Patrick's Day Parade, Sunday, March 18th, 2012, at 1 p.m. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay,
Second.
Any discussion?
Can't believe it's 33 years.
I think we usually
Actually,
put
can I
stipulation.
ask one question?
Yeah.
Usually, it states, doesn't it, if it's a walking or a driving parade? It's on a Sunday, so that means it's a walking parade? Or is it always walking now?
For you, it's walking.
It's always walking now?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I remember the day when I was the first one.
Yeah, exactly.
Lunch break.
Oh, that's why you brought that up.
Yeah, that's right, okay.
I think we
Okay.
always put on the stipulation that it's under the public safety
Yeah.
approval.
Pending public safety approval. Okay. Any further discussion?
No, I'd vote for it if Mike tells us and reiterates our meetings that Eddie Bailey's house we met
No,
93 years
please.
ago.
Please.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, it's unanimous. Okay, moving along. Hold on one second. Let me catch up. Let me catch up here. All right, we have the approval of Boosters Annual Door-to-Door Drive, Sunday, October 16th, 2011.
Move we approve.
Okay, second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, it's unanimous. All right. Moving along here, number 5, vote to authorize deficits.
No,
Whoop.
no.
Number 4.
I'll
Consi-
move.
Consider changing Board of Selectmen meeting from October 3rd to October 17th due to town meeting being scheduled for October 24th, 2011.
So moved.
So moved. Second?
A second.
Second by Mr. Franny. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Okay, number 5. Vote to authorize deficit spending under Chapter 44, Section 31D for emergency expenditures due to Tropical Storm Irene. John, would you care to elaborate on that?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, you have before you a total of $26,742.76. We also received today some additional expenditures from the fire department, totaling $3,176.23. The total deficit that we are requesting to overexpend, is $29,918.99. We propose to cure this deficit at the special within the annual as we move closer to finalizing our actual expenditures for FY12.
So this won't be at the October special town meeting, it'll be
Do we have it on?
We don't have it on
No.
the October.
No, it'll be at the
April.
special within the annual.
And I would imagine this is just a partial, will probably be other amounts coming in.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
through you, is any of this reimbursable?
Through,
Well, we're
because of
waiting
federal
to
money?
hear that, either federally or state. We're still waiting to hear how much is reimbursable, so...
Some should be, right?
Yeah, we expect that, but, who knows?
Yeah, okay.
The state promises and then doesn't deliver.
I see one of the vendors paid was the Bob Barker Company. Is that a pet neutering company or something, or, you know?
The Bob Barker
Oh,
Company.
Barker Company, yeah, I guess.
Price is right.
Yeah, all right.
Well, we were on the Price is Right showcase, I think is what.
All right, any further discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, we have an acceptance of the order of taking for Kimber Circle. John, would you care to explain?
This was voted by town meeting. We have obviously laid out the street. We've gone through all of the public process now. We are signing, and we have to file this with the Registry of Deeds before the 6th of October, which is our 120-day period. This has been approved, the language has been approved by council as so written. The abutters have also provided their easements on this as well, and so we are now ready to vote and to record this.
Move we approve the order of taking.
Okay,
I'll second that, but just for public.
Sure.
I do have a nephew that lives on that street, so just for public disclosure.
You have who?
a nephew that lives on that street, so I don't
Well, we
want
won't
to, I
take
don't
his.
want to end
We'll
up.
take
You're just gonna,
everybody
you know,
else's
Mike,
but his.
from now on, you're just gonna sit in the corner, we'll
Yeah.
call you
No,
up when you
well,
need
you
it.
know what, I don't want to, the way they
That's
put
what
it
happens
now
when you're
is-
related to half the town.
Huh? Well, it probably doesn't, but I mean,
Yeah.
that new open meeting law and ethics violations is just, I don't want to be there with the Leo. I don't want to be in the same cell as him.
Well, actually, he gave up some of his land in order to create the public way, so.
He might have.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further
I'll second.
discussion?
Do we have the original?
Yeah, to sign.
It's in the office, the original
Okay.
design.
The original will sign after the meeting.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. All right, now, let's see. We have the signing of notice of non-exercise of first refusal option at 223, 225 Groveland Street, Abington.
Assessors map 14,
Yeah.
lots 20 to 22.
Yeah, and this is the Tita Green site that is, got the 61B tax status that gives us first right of refusal. John, could you,
Yes, I will. The intent letter is provided to the board in accordance with Chapter 61B, which is open space recreation. 61A is farmland and other such. The purchase price is $850,000. The Board of Selectmen has 120 days after the delivery of notice to exercise its right of first refusal. I think at this point, we would have to match the amount of $850,000. We could do it through an override if anyone's interested. I would recommend that we not exercise our right to purchase this land as open space or to preserve it as open space at this time, because whatever we purchase the property for, would constitute an override.
yeah, okay.
I would move we provide notice of non-exercise of a first refusal option
Okay, got a motion by Mr. Donovan?
and not to
exercise and not to assign.
not to exercise and not to assign.
Okay, do we have a second?
Yes.
Okay, second by Mr. Burbine. Any further discussion? Kenny?
This abuts the former landfill, correct?
Yes.
Yes, correct.
Now, are there concerns that seepage into that property at a future date the owner probably may come back to us, to the town, or is that new owner prepared to give us some of that property, or is there any plans to... My concerns are, we all know that the landfill kind of spread beyond what it started with, and I think the town bought some property on the other side, but now maybe, what about this side? Did it seep into this
It's
side?
my understanding that the proposed purchaser, the person who will purchase this land, will deed that portion of, for lack of a better term, the overage, what has seeped over, so to speak, onto private property. They will deed that portion over to the town.
A question on that, John. If that being the case, in terms of them deeding it over, I know, or maybe council could opine, if we were to deed it over under a conservation restriction, I know the acceptance provision is a little bit different, whereby the Conservation Commission Board of Selectmen can accept it, or the normal process would be
Town meeting.
through town meeting. So I don't know what that portion of the land looks like, but certainly on the premise that if it's, knowing the land area around it, it was always wet in and around there. So I guess my question would be, could we find out, if that is a conservation piece, it'd probably be a lot easier administratively to have it accepted by conservation and us, as opposed to going to town meeting, but just a thought. That's
I think that you're correct, and I think that we should pursue, we could pursue both, either conservation easement, which I think obviously, as you know, is easier. And I think the only question that I have is that while some of it may be wet, there is also some of it that is, has our municipal waste
right.
located there. So some part of it would have to go for a landfill closure, and the other part could be a conservation easement. So we can accept it under those conditions in that manner.
I have another question. Say this deal falls through. Does the town get the right again for first refusal with a new buyer? They do? Okay.
Yeah, this is specific to this purchase. Now, a year from now, there may be, somebody else may offer to buy it for $1 million, so then we would have to come up with $1 million or match that in order to ensure our right of first refusal.
Okay, any further discussion? No. Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. It's unanimous.
Just so the board understands, because this has been in what is considered to be a lesser tax classification, there is I think a 6-year or 7-year, 5-year rollback, meaning that we would get 5 years of back taxes on the property once this sale goes through. So there'd be a little more money in our town treasury as a result of this.
Yep. Okay, moving along. Review and setting of warrant for special town meeting on October 24th. John, would you care to start the discussion?
This is a very preliminary draft at this point in time. We do have a number for stabilization. The number for stabilization is $429,183.60, which represents 60% of the free cash number minus the amount that we have calculated for L&R. So if I may indulge your time for a minute, we have the $1 million in free cash, $1,001,306 in certified free cash. We have that number minus the $286,000 in L&R, which leaves us a total of $715,306. 60% of the $715,000 going into stabilization is $429,183.60. 40% would go to capital items, which is $286,122.40. In addition to that, we have available in our L&R earmarked to capital of $286,000 for a total of $572,122. So do they have this information?
They do.
Okay. I don't know if you're following our logic here, but the reason why our number for stabilization is high, not stabilization, but capital is higher than what's available going into stabilization is because of the $286,000 in L&R money. We decided to take that number out of the equation and actually look at a true free cash number. That would be the balance after you take out the L&R money of a total of $286,122. We add the L&R money back in at $286,000. We have a total capital budget for expenditure of $572,122.40. It would be my proposal that we could spend some, if not all, of that $572,122 number, but that it is critically important for us to put $429,183.60 into stabilization. This will be the second year in which we put money into stabilization. We're beginning to build that number to the amount that we need, between 5 and 8%. Next week, or at our next meeting, I am going to propose a policy for the use of stabilization. As this dollar value begins to grow in stabilization, it's going to become an appealing target for expenditure purposes. And I think that we in the Finance Committee need to establish a policy as to how that money actually begins to be withdrawn, if at all. My recommendation is that you would have to kill me first in order to get the money out of stabilization. But that may happen. So, aside from that, we need to develop a policy, and that's what I'm working on with staff. We have a very good, sound policy that we're going to implement. We're going to ask the board to vote on, we're going to ask the finance committee to follow. I am going to be meeting with the finance committee on Wednesday. We're going through all of the capital budgets for all of the departments that have requested. So we're meeting with the finance committee. The department heads are meeting this coming Wednesday. You can join us if you're so inclined, if you have nothing else to do. We're going to be meeting with the schools and highway. We have library and we have other departments, the Council on Aging, the Board of Health, that are all submitting requests for capital items. We have taken our first review of the capital items based on what the priority needs are, and we will we'll get back to you as to where we stand presently, probably at our next meeting.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I would move we include Article 1 in the warrant.
Okay, your motion? Second? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous.
Article 2, I would move we include the revisions to the classification and salary plan.
Okay, we get a motion?
I had just a couple of typos in there. Section 1-4,
Section 1-4,
on the warrant portion,
okay,
okay, of Article 2.
yep,
The second sentence says also deleting the words Board of Selectmen. Can we make it also deleting the phrase in the last sentence? And then the phrase is upon recommendation of the executive secretary. And then you're going to replace it with the words town manager. And I think there was one more. 6.2B.
did you get that first, Jim? Can you repeat that?
6.2B.
No, the...
Oh, I'm sorry.
1.
I can give it to you afterwards if you want.
1.4, what are you trying to do there?
Whatever corrections.
Yeah, it's just a word correction as far as town manager versus Board of Selectmen, like we've done.
Okay,
But I can give it to you,
okay,
my hard copy here if you want.
okay.
And then
Yeah.
Article 6.2B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines down. It looks like that's doubled.
Yeah, it was.
Yep.
It's, the line before says the same thing as the second line.
Well, one
Titles,
says...
duties.
Yeah.
Titles, duties, responsibility, salary
Yeah.
range. So that just needs to be
Well,
adjusted.
the one says for the job, the time, place, and manner of making application. The other one says special qualification for the position, title, duties, responsibilities, and salary range. There's a slight difference. We'll check that.
Yeah, I would check it.
You see that?
And then
Check it.
that same section where you say at a minimum placed on the town of Abington official website, the Massachusetts Municipal Association website, and any other forms of public media notification that is usual and customary. Can we add in there the town bulletin board? Somewhere, posted somewhere in the town hall?
Well, that's under the that's under the charter, I think, for
Yeah, but
vacancies.
can we just
But you want to put it in there too?
reconfirm it in here, too?
Okay.
And that was all I had.
That was it?
Okay, I'll move we approve it as with the suggested amendments.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Burbine. Do we have any further discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous.
And just for procedural purposes, when we get to town meeting, is there any way we could have the personnel bylaw like redlined? Because this will be very confusing for people.
I am trying to find a electronic copy of the bylaw, and unfortunately, I don't believe one exists, at least not in our possession. So we're going to have to recreate it, type it in, and then...
I've seen it before where we've brought amendments to
Yep.
bylaws and people are confused and they'll say, well, we're not going to vote for it because we don't understand it because we can't take the whole thing in context here. So if we could maybe get that, I know it's a lot of work, but it's going to have to be done at some point.
It will.
Okay, moving along. Article 3A.
Do you need a public hearing for those changes before you go down?
Not for bylaws. No, but I think when we, it is a matter of, at our next meeting, when we actually take a vote on supporting the article or not supporting the article, you know, my suggestion would be that we, well, when we get to one particular article, and I have in mind that we should have a public hearing on regardless, so maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea if that's the
Yeah, it
case.
wouldn't be
We
a
can
bad
explain it briefly.
Okay, moving on. Entertain a motion.
Article 3A, we have a number that we would like to fix for a vote to fund a 2% salary increase for employees, the total amount plus salary adjustments, and I will provide you with a spreadsheet of the salary adjustments and the 2% of $66,177.24.
Where is that money coming from?
It would be raise and appropriate,
You got that.
One more time, John, what was that number?
66,177.24.
How many positions does that encompass?
It encompasses everyone that's non-union.
Do you know the number of positions?
We can count them.
No, that's all right. It's
Yeah.
all non-union.
We'll count them.
It was handed up to. John, wait, I'm just a little confused on that. Where are you coming?
40.
40.
Andy, where are you with that?
Article 3?
Article 3A.
What it says
That's an
increases
old
to health insurance, unemployment, and you're talking about,
There's two
Yeah,
parts,
just above
there's two
that.
parts to that.
all right, so there's no numbers presently in here for increases to health insurance or unemployment? On the copy I have, because I think
That's
I...
right.
We are getting those numbers as
But
we
there's
speak.
nothing printed right now.
Right,
Right.
that's
Okay,
correct.
that's...
Move we include it.
Okay, Article 3A.
I still I can't see it.
Is that your motion, Kev?
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, these are articles, I don't think we're here to, at least my thought is, we're not here to debate the merits of it either way. I think if it's a question that, it's something that, on the recommendation of the town manager to put it in, we can put it in, and then have that debate at the next meeting whether we want to support it or not. But
Okay.
I think in deference to his recommendation, I would move to include it in the warrant.
Okay, do we have a motion on the floor by Mr. Donovan? Second? Okay, I'll second it. Any further discussion?
I understand what you're saying, Kevin, but we have such limited information here as to including this. It's just, to me, it's... When's the last time these folks had raises?
Well, I can tell you that most of the administrative staff people who are non-union at the school department have received at least a 3% raise in the last budget cycle. So these employees have not received a raise, I believe, since 2010.
Most of them, right.
FY
And I think-
2010?
I think it was FY 2010. And I think part of the hesitation last time was that, you know, we're trying to get our financial footing, that, you know, we don't have any money in stabilization, we don't have free cash, we don't, you know, we were in deficit of $720,000. There were all kinds of issues that prevented any of this from happening before. Well, since my tenure, we erased $720,000 prior year deficit. We're putting money into stabilization. We're going to have close to, I think we put 200 and some odd thousand. We're putting-
255.
255, we're putting another 429,000. That brings us up to $600,000, $700,000 in stabilization. There are other components of government that we do not control that have received administrative salary increases. and that was part of the fall or the annual town, I think it was the annual town meeting. So, and there are salary adjustments here too, as we had talked about, and I will provide you with the outline of that. Of course, this becomes very personal in some respects, and I don't want it to necessarily become personal. This 3A conforms to the charter. This is the appropriation that the town manager needs to adjust the salaries based on the charter. And then right now, it consists of how many? 40?
40.
40 employees at this point in time.
It's not personal for me. You know, I just, a lot of the stabilization money is one-time revenue that we're not going to have next year.
No, we're raising and appropriating the money.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
This
that
is within
one of
the
reasons,
budget.
the reason for putting off the raises a fiscal year was because we had no money in stabilization. It's not personal at all. We just want to peek around the corner before we, you know.
Okay.
All right, go ahead, Mike.
Just in my, in some of the information you provided us as a board previous to this, there were some employees that received wages and some that didn't.
I'm sorry?
There were some employees that received wages and some that didn't. Some of the information you provided me,
That's
I would like to see, and I certainly want to be fair about this, but I also have a little bit of a different take of the amount of money that's in revenue right now. It's true that we do have extra, but we're also running, departments that are understaffed and school department, fire department, and we have pretty much cut. So we're running a bare bones operation, and yet the taxes are the same for the people in town. So I think it's great what we're doing, but I also recognize the fact that we're not providing the residents of the town with services we should be. So I am a little bit cautious going forward about handing out raises, and we're kind of, I mean, we just saw what happened in the stock market. I'm a conservative, I will tell you that going forward. And we also had a gentleman came here and told us that we're $42 million in the hole as far as unfunded liability towards health insurance. I do look at all those. I look at the big picture, but I also recognize that, and I have to be fair to employees. I'm not speaking, like I'm against every pay raise, because I'm not, but I do want to be fair to see where we're at with it. So I agree with Mr. Burbine. I would like to see, where the money's going and how it's allocated. And actually, when did the individuals last receive a pay raise to make a conscious decision? So if we could have that, I'd appreciate it.
And just to clarify in my mind, you have increased $7,000 to the school department, you're not sure on the health insurance, you're not sure on the unemployment, right?
Yeah, those figures are being worked on, the health insurance and the unemployment.
Okay, so
We'll have those by the end of this week.
So the 66,177.24 is just pay raise portion, right?
Exactly.
It doesn't include those other...
That's correct.
Exactly. The $7,000 to the school departments, that's our contribution to the purchase of a new bus that's required.
Yeah. Well, to the question of whether or not we have added personnel, I can tell you that we've added a number of personnel back to the school department, okay? We have not added nearly as many employees at all on the town side. We've added some firefighters back so we can get to 5-man shifts. We need to add some additional police officers, but we're slowly moving in that direction. It's not like we have not added additional personnel. We have. The larger question that we need to ask ourselves is, are we utilizing those individuals efficiently enough at this point? There are going to be some capital items that we're going to discuss where I think that we need to gain greater efficiencies and looking at some regional solutions to how we end up funding, certain aspects of dispatch, centralized dispatch. And those are, again, my concern is, and I'm a fiscal conservative as well, I don't support operational overrides, and I wouldn't support one if, it was proposed today or tomorrow. That doesn't mean at some point in time we may not need one, but we're nowhere near that. We're not efficient enough in our operations. However, we're asking employees to, as you have indicated, to work harder. because they're down. We're down in the number of employees that we have. And I think that we have a fundamental responsibility to acknowledge that, first of all, people aren't treated equitably and fairly, and that there are people that are working hard, and there should be some level of recognition. And that recognition is anywhere from a salary adjustment based on where we stand in the marketplace for similar positions in other communities, or an actual 2% increase, which is below the 2.5% increase that the town enjoys every fiscal year. So we're not asking employees, we're not giving employees outrageous cost of living increases,
No,
3, 4, 5%. And I think that that's what happened in the past, and when we could least afford it. And so I'm trying to do it in a very pragmatic way. Some of these increases are one-time salary adjustments, and some of them are 2%. And so you need to know that. When I talk about personality, I talk about it from the standpoint of, well, look at this employee, he is getting or she is getting this amount of money. We will talk about the rationale and the reasons why that's happening. But according to the charter and according to the personnel bylaw, I would consider these increases cost of living, in some cases a merit increase based on the recognition of the individuals who have worked very hard in this town and have not received a compensatory salary as a result. So,
Sure.
Are these retroactive to June 1st, or are they effective as of the date of town meeting, or?
It's actually calculated October 31st, because that gives you a true 35-week period, so it would not be retroactive.
Not retroactive.
We have a motion and a second. Do we,
What was
Is-
the motion, Chris? I'm sorry.
the motion was to
Just
accept it.
include it on the warrant.
Yeah, to include it on the warrant. Is it possible to get a breakdown of the positions and the raises?
that's what I said we're going to do.
Okay,
Yeah, and you-
all right. Do we want to take the vote?
Oh, we have to, right? We're not.
We have to take the vote?
Yeah,
And but
put it on, but we don't
but-
have to, I mean, that's what I would like to see, is because there was some conflicting information that I received, that some personnel did receive raises, in fact, and some didn't, some have gone for, and that's what I'd like to see, just to be fair.
I
It's all about being fair, it's not, and I understand, John, it's fully, it's, the ball's in your court, it's up to you and your decision to make, but if you're gonna ask me, Mike Franey, as a member of the Board of Selectmen, to support it or not support it, I would like to see the information, just to give you an honest opinion.
Did we provide you with that? I thought we provided that information as a point of clarification before.
If you did, I apologize, I don't remember.
It's not in this
getting that.
packet.
No, I mean, when this issue had come up before, about who received raises, when they received them, I thought that Leo Provost provided you with a very detailed breakdown as to when those raises were last received. Now,
If it's all about that personnel, I'm not sure what you're talking about. That's what I'm saying, it's not clear to me, all right? It's not clear what employees you're talking about. If you're talking about those employees, yes, you did, but I don't know who you're talking about, that's the bottom line. If you did, I can go back and get that, you're correct. But just as a point, I need to see this in front of me,
okay.
that's all.
Yeah, no, well, first of all, I said that we are going to do that.
Okay.
We are going to provide that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yeah,
Opposed.
opposed. Okay, it's one opposed, Kenny Coyle. All right, next. Article 3B, John?
Oh, this is, 3B is the clerk, because she's elected, there has to be a separate warrant article to fix the salaries for elected.
Move we include Article 3B in the warrant.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion?
Do you know, is that a percentage also? Is that a 2% or is that a?
That's a 2% as of October 31.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Article 4?
This is the transfer from the capital trust fund, the sum of X number of dollars to the capital plan. Now, right now, as we have fixed the numbers in Article 1, we're transferring, we would need to transfer a sum of money. And we won't know what that number is until we get closer to funding the priorities from the various departments. So that number's not in total, but we're proposing to transfer money into the capital trust account.
I move we approve, I move we, include Article 4.
Okay. Second? Discussion?
So this plan that we have here tonight, this is not,
It's not etched in stone,
Etched in stone.
we're not there yet. We're still going through a process with the finance committee and with the various departments.
Because that actually reflects a deficit, that plan, if that were all to be funded,
We can't fund it all.
How much money will you have to put towards that?
the 5.
Well, we said that
572.
earlier, it's
572.
572?
572, okay.
$572,122.
Any further discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Article 4 is
That
accepted.
includes spending all of the L&R capital money.
Okay,
As I had said to the board, I'm more inclined not to want to spend all of the capital money up front in case we have emergency capital needs at the special within the annual. We want to be able to have some money.
all right. Article 5. John?
This is the $2,332 for sick leave buyback for a retired library assistant.
Move we approve.
Okay, we got a
Second.
motion, second by Mr. Donovan. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Article 6.
Article 6 is $13,930 for the purchase of the second set of personal protective clothing for 5 new hires as per the union contract.
move we
The chief
include,
wants a second set of protective clothing.
move we include Article 6 on the warrant.
Okay, second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Article 7.
Article 7 is proposed by the Tricentennial Committee for $50,000 to pay expenses related to the Abington celebration. The next article, which is Article 8, includes $20,000 for police details associated with parade and the fireworks. We just received the detail expenditure information for
Fire.
the fire department. So we're going to adjust that number and also include fire. My recommendation is that number goes directly to the departments for that particular purpose.
Also, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we group Articles 7, 8, and 9 for the purpose solely of identification. We can have one article and have it delineated A, B, and C, but in the interest of trying to group it all together for the purposes of discussion.
Okay, but they're put on by different groups.
No, I think it's still listed.
You can do, okay.
Tricentennial by the police chief and by the fire chief.
Okay.
So you're going to adjust the 50,000, John, is that by?
Yes, I think,
The bottom line is, it's still going to be 50,000, or is it going to be 70,000?
no, I think it's going, we had made a commitment.
Correct, that's correct.
To the Tricentennial to match the firework
Yep.
up to a certain dollar amount. And we want to do that. My understanding of the intent of Article 7 was to lump it all together for the purpose of the fireworks show, the details for the police and the fire for the parade, and the fireworks themselves. So we have an overlapping article, and I just want the board to be aware of that.
Okay.
Just a point of discussion. If the funds were allocated into the departments, and say we had a cancellation or a rain or something happened, we didn't have it, it would seem to me that it would be left, in the department, and they could spend it, maybe they need it, obviously, they all need it, but if you were to put the money in the Tricentennial and it wasn't expended out to the police and fire, it would more or less, after a year, that's going to come back to the town or allocated towards something.
Unless the Tricentennial decides that they want to spend it And they have the statutory authority to make that decision at least up to 9 months after the tricentennial is over. So they could spend it in any number of ways. If we put it into the line items for each of the town departments, the same thing would hold true.
Okay.
In other words, we would specifically say that it would go into an account for police, for parades, and for fireworks. And it would be used for that purpose. Now, they could, right now, the police department has a parade account for overtime purposes. So we would either create an account for both firework and parade, or for details for the tricentennial, but it would be dedicated for that specific purpose. If it wasn't expended, it would revert back to free cash. The difference in what you're referring to is that if it's appropriated directly for details and for the fireworks, directly to the tricentennial, and let's say they don't do the fireworks, or they don't do the parade.
Yeah.
And that money would remain there up to 9 months after the tricentennial, and they could do whatever they wanted with it. Because it would go into the gift account.
It would be in the gift account, but they just can't spend it on a trip to Bermuda or something like that. It has
Well,
to
no,
be-
but let's say they had 70,000 left over at the end of the
Yeah.
tricentennial celebration. They would make it, the committee as a whole would make a decision as to how that money would be used. They could use it, as I had indicated to the committee when I met with them, to build a tricentennial park for
Right.
members of the Board of Selectmen, for example.
Restore the bridge.
No, because the
Or
only reason I
whatever
say
they
that is
want.
because we have some rough estimates going forward, as you well know, on refurbishing the arch at Island Grove. Just some of those things coming forward, I just had an item.
I would be very careful with that, only because when we go to town meeting, we ask for an appropriation. We're telling them we're going to spend it for X, Y, and Z. I would feel more comfortable if we came back with the Tricentennial Committee and said, well, the Tricentennial Committee wants to expend this appropriation for another purpose that was not originally discussed.
That's fine.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure. That's fine.
If you put it in the account for police details and parade detail, then that's what it'll be expended for.
But it wouldn't just be for the Tricentennial Parade, then it could be for a parade in honor of Mr. Donovan that we had or something. But it could be for any parade, is that correct? Or?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. It will be any parade that, I don't know how many parades we have, but the only one that I ever know about, or knew about, and participated in was the
St. Patrick's.
St. Patrick's Day Parade.
Yeah. And then the Veterans Day Parade we have in
Soccer parade.
Tri-Town.
But the Veterans Parade has a separate appropriation under the Veterans line item.
Okay.
That parade is paid for separately with a distinctive appropriation, which we're going to have to put into the FY13 budget, because it will be our year to host.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion that we include Articles 7, 8, and 9 as one article for the warrant, and then John's going to refine the numbs from what he just said.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second.
I have a
Yeah,
question.
okay, me too.
What was the final outcome of the Tricentennial Committee? The monies that they raise goes into the general fund now, or?
It goes into the gift account. It doesn't go into the general fund. It's a gift account. It's accounted for separately in the general fund.
So this 50,000 is above and beyond the money that they raise?
That's correct.
Is this raise and appropriate?
Yes.
So we'll be using taxpayers' money to pay for the... Okay, I just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah. Well, I think the town needs to step to the plate in regards to putting on some aspect of the 300. I would support this article for that purpose, absolutely. I think, and our discussion, just so the board is aware, our discussion with the Tricentennial was that if you came up with $15,000, the town would match $15,000 and put on a $30,000 firework display.
You say our discussion, who's our town meeting, or?
Well, I would be committed to that. I would step before town meeting and try to make good on that commitment. It would be town meeting's choice as to whether or not they wanted to do that. But 300 years comes once in a lifetime, usually.
Once every 300 years.
Yeah. So the next one will be 600.
In meeting with the tricentennial, they're obviously raising funds, and they're going to continue to raise funds, but it's a matter of, it is going to be a nice event, and there's going to be a lot of events going forward, but it was a quality of life issue, more or less. So we said, listen, do we have any responsibility to the people of town? Most of the people I talked to are more than supportive of helping out for this one-time event, and that's what John.
And you know what, that could even come from, free cash, because it's once every 300 years.
Right.
It's a one-time
It's not a
expenditure.
recurring expenditure.
It's not that we're going to do that expenditure every year. So we'll make that decision as we go along and adjust the figures so we can try to accommodate as much as what needs to occur for the fall town meeting.
Mr. Moderator.
Can I just suggest if you do, whether you combine 7, 8, and 9 or don't combine? Sean Riley, Town Moderator, can I just make a suggestion, whether you combine Articles 7, 8, and 9 or not, if perhaps you renumber them, put 7 after 8 and 9, that way as this discussion continues, the town meeting or the selectmen will go through how much we're going to allocate to police details, how much we're going to allocate to fire, and then what's the remainder that's needed for the Tricentennial Committee. That, you can play that out, instead of first voting on the amount to the Tricentennial and then hoping you get the other two to fill in the blanks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can rearrange those. The number, I guess all they're doing tonight is saying it should be on the warrant
Yep.
at this point.
But if you could consider just doing that, I think it might flow better at town meeting.
Okay.
And in your future discussions about approving or not. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, I just need a clarification on the detail money, Articles 8 and 9. Now, you said after 9 months, does it revert back to free cash, or does it stay in there for other parades?
No. If you appropriate the money, the $50,000, let's take Article 7.
Yeah,
That's going directly to the Tricentennial.
yes. I'm talking, go ahead.
Can we eliminate any confusion then and stipulate that as it relates to the details for the police and fire department, that it will only be used for the parade or fireworks detail related to the 300th anniversary, so that way nobody
Yes.
can make any suggestions that it's going to be used otherwise?
Yeah, that's my
Therefore,
concern.
if something should happen and we don't have a parade, which I'm quite sure is not going to happen, then the money is restricted and cannot be used only for that purpose.
Yeah, I don't want to commit money that's not going to be spent on the 300th celebration.
We're not going to.
Okay.
That will not happen.
Okay. That's my only concern.
Yeah. But I wanted you to know that it would go into an account. But if we put that restriction on, which I think is a good suggestion from Selectman Donovan, that we should do that. It would be only used for detail-related expenditures for the Tricentennial Committee, for the parade, and for the firework display.
So we have to amend our previous vote?
No.
No? Okay.
You just, we will include that language in the article.
That's a motion, right, Kevin?
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Okay, Article 10.
Article 10 is, this is a cleanup article. The Board of Selectmen and Town Manager signed an agreement with the IBPO. We neglected to put an article on for, this went retroactive to July 2010 in our agreement
Yep.
to pay for longevity.
Okay,
That number will be anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000.
it's good of them to wait. Okay, entertain a motion.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Franny. Mr. Donovan?
Second.
Second by Mr. Donovan. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Article 10. Article 11, John?
Article 11 deals with a revolving account for burning permits. I'm not a big fan of revolving accounts, but
We have a lot of revolving accounts.
we have way too many, but I think in this,
It can only be done at a
Oh, did it?
I think, can we double check that? Because I thought the statute said we could only do revolving under this section at an annual unless they've changed the statute. I'm not 100% sure.
It may very well be the case.
So could how about this? I'll make a motion that we include it providing the statute allows it.
Okay, otherwise we'll take it off.
Right.
Okay, second?
I'd just like a little more information on it, if I could. And I want to disclose I do get burning permits. Why $4,000?
$4,000 is the annual cost to host that on the website, where people can go to the website, click on it, order a burning permit, pay for it, and have it mailed to them or pick it up at the
So what would...
at the fire station. What happens now, in many cases, when we do burning permits, it's done on an overtime basis at the fire department.
On an overtime basis?
And this is new revenue, because we currently don't charge for burning permits. It's
Yeah,
new
so this is
instituted
new
by the
revenue.
fire.
No, I understand not charging for burning permit, and I actually think it's one of the few benefits we get when you pay taxes, but, the way it is now, you go down and get, you walk into the fire station, a lot of times I see somebody I haven't seen in a while, and you get the burning permit. I don't see that it's on overtime myself. I always go down there usually on a Sunday or a Saturday afternoon. And it is, I think we've had a discussion about burning permits. How much would the burning permit cost now all of a sudden? And why, if we're hosting on the website, why the $4,000? I don't quite get it.
Would it be easier for you not
Well,
to...
we just have our police, our fire chief here.
And John, of all people, I think you're doing an outstanding job. I hate to question it, but I got
No,
it.
absolutely, you're correct. I think there might be some confusion on this. I might actually be confused. I was going to propose perhaps beginning to charge maybe $10 per burning permit, and here's why. We went online, burning permit, we're trying to limit some of the foot traffic into the fire station. We're trying to make it more convenient for the residents. There is a fee for hosting the online burning permits. It's like $750 a year for it. Plus, if we begin to charge for those, it's anywhere from $1.50 to $2 per permit for the hosting company to take care of that. Any extra money that would be raised with this, I was hoping to put towards an account which would help pay for firefighting foam and some of the expenses that go into the forest fire supplies that we end up using during this time of year. By trying to limit some of the foot traffic coming into the station, it would limit some of the overtime that in the past we have had to use, because when you get into the warm spring days and the foot traffic coming into the fire station is extremely heavy, and we have dispatch and fire personnel trying to do their other jobs as well, and we have people waiting in the fire station for us to get these done. I'm trying to limit that. So there might be some, I'm not sure if there was confusion with how this was written, but I think that up to $4,000 just to begin to accrue some of that to be used
For the
for those
online
expenses.
costs, it says for the online cost.
So do we have, just on a more round thing, we trying to get building permits and other things online? Are they all going to have individual separate costs? Like if we could pay our taxes online or pay our water bills online, are they all going to include?
Well, there may be charges that the town incurs when you go through a particular credit company. Let's say, 3% of the charge would be paid, we have to pay to American Express. They're the highest card, they charge us for each transaction. So the question becomes, if the person is paying by a charge card, which is the easiest way to deal with a transaction over the internet, why should all of the residents pay for that? It should be paid for by the people who actually.
But are you going to be
use
able
the
to
charge.
pull building permits and put it on your charge card?
I don't know. I mean, we haven't gotten that far. I mean, this is the discussion is morphed Article 11, and we're on building permits. We're talking
Well, no, I mean, it all ties into it.
about
No,
a
but like
building-
you're talking
a
about
burning
starting a
permit at this
revolving
point.
account for a permit.
No,
We issue a lot of
it's
permits.
specifically for burning permits.
Burning permits for a
Right, not for building permits.
What's
but I'm just
If I
saying,
can just real quick, too, I'm not looking to try to make a profit on this. trust me, the last thing I want to do is begin charging people
God
for a fee
forbid if
that
we should
they've,
run this like a business.
that they've always done. A lot of towns in the area have charged $20 for permits for years. Abington has never charged anything.
Right.
I'm trying to begin a little bit of a fee to make this sustainable. I'm trying to make the burning permit process, if you will, sustainable, and if there is any money that exceeds what it costs to do this, to perhaps find a way to fund some of the firefighting foam that we use, that when these burning permits get out of control, which every year, as much as we try to enforce it, in the permitting process is to try to educate the people. Again, a 5-gallon bucket of foam is about $100, and we go through a lot of it. I'm just trying to find a way to make the entire burning permit process for the town of Abington sustainable. That's what this is.
Are you going to be able to pull a oil burner permit online?
You still have to come into the station for that. That's going to be in a specific form.
What kind of permit?
Oil burner permit. They
Maybe
issue
in the
oil
future,
burner.
if we are able to, we're way off subject, and I don't want to do that to you, but if
Well, no,
we-
that's fine. I
if we
mean,
go to a different
Well, I'm saying, it's
software for the fire department, we may be able to do that. Right now, we don't have that capability.
John, what is the penalty for burning without a permit?
You get phoned.
get hosed.
No, it's
No,
probably...
usually it's not monetary. We really haven't done a monetary thing. Usually it's a public
Don't do it
education.
again.
Yeah.
If it's a repeat, then we simply revoke the
It's
burning
just
permit.
something that I think in my neighborhood, and we kind of, we get the burning permit, you get on the police station, it's something, I don't know, $10, I don't know if a lot of people would not get the burning permit and still burn a little bit or whatever. It depends on the given year, as you well know, how many limbs come down and stuff, but it was just something I always thought of, that the town, it was a nice benefit. It wasn't something, obviously $4,000 isn't going to make a break.
And again, I'm not trying to just charge people for the sake of
Yeah.
charging. That's the last thing. I'm trying to make it more convenient
But-
for
but
people and make it more sustainable for the department.
Also knowing the way the complexities, or understanding some of the complexities that involve when somebody comes and gives a $10 bill or a check or something to the town, it goes to an office, and now it's all processed. And I mean, we get the documents in there that we have to sign. So there's if you ran it like a business, you wouldn't have all that baloney, but it has to be all accounted for and everything like that. So there's extra money just by the fact you're handling money, if you know what I'm saying.
There's an administrative cost to dealing with it.
Right. So it's just...
I guess that's the question I had, Chief, is if you're going to institute a $10 fee for the burning permits, people don't get it online, now you're going to have,
They could still come in, if
but that's going to
people
make it
still
even more...
don't have a computer, they could still come into the station. We'll find a way to do that, but
And so
We'll try to limit
now
that.
in
But now
handling
you've got people there
cash...
who have to handle cash, so it's...
we do that now on
You do?
Yeah.
other smoke detector inspections.
Okay.
Or oil burner inspections.
But it's made out to the town of Abington now.
Correct.
Now it's going to be made out to
Town of
Abington Fire.
Abington. Town
Oh,
of
still,
Abington.
even if it goes
Yeah.
into you, okay.
Yeah. We have to pay that administrative fee online. There is an administrative fee that we have to pay. It's, and whenever you engage the private sector, you have to pay a fee.
Not true. That's not true.
So this is just to basically set up the revolving account, it's not establishing a fee or anything, you're going to do that at some point in the future, is that?
Well, the board would have to vote that out. I mean, you would have to vote.
I would imagine on your recommendation, but...
Yeah.
All right. Do we have a
And we
motion?
promise that we
Yeah,
won't
yeah.
phone you.
Excuse me?
We won't phone you.
I would just like to commend the chief, because this is kind of thinking outside the box and doing the permits online, and the foot traffic, sometimes the stations are not well manned, and it takes some time, there could be a firewall there. I think it saves, in the long run, I think it saves time and manpower. So.
Yeah, I'm
Good
just
idea.
curious, Chief, you don't have to come back up. How many burning permits a year, roughly?
600.
That many, huh? That's significant.
It'll be cut in half.
It would be cut in half.
That's what I
It
thought.
will be.
Yeah, it's a moot point, as I said. It can only be done at an annual town meeting.
Statute says you can only establish a revolving account in
Okay.
All right.
So that's
Therefore, I
off.
move we
That's
take
off.
it off the
Sorry.
wall.
Yeah, so that wasn't a very good idea, I think.
Bring it
that's-
back.
Spent 20 minutes talking about an article that we can't put on until...
Well, now we've-
You should have told us that earlier, you're the moderator. Where you been?
Listening to Franny talk about...
And I was going to vote for it, John,
That's
honestly.
because we don't have Wi-Fi, which we should have. Although if you want to do that, you can go down to Council on Aging.
Okay,
Moving right along.
scratching Article 11, moving on to Article 12. John, could you elaborate on this?
I wish I could. It's the Board of Health. See if the town will vote to transfer from free cash into the revolving account. I think this is the amount of money that the Board of Health collected prior to them establishing this bulk trash sticker fee. And I think this is the amount that they're looking to transfer. God forbid if the town should get any additional money that belongs to the Board of Health or any other board or committee. They want to put that money into their revolving account.
I spoke to I saw this and I had questions too. I spoke to the chairman of the Board of Health today. He said that 9232 is the amount that stickers was brought in from last fiscal year when there wasn't a account set up.
Right.
He wants to use this money, the board wants to use this money for work at the compost site because they're 3 years behind on work for the compost site because there's no help from the highway department. They have to turn things over and clear a path in there. So I think town meeting approved the revolving fund to include things like that.
Did you say that there was no help from the highway department?
There was a little help. Little help compared to what we've had in years prior.
Well, I think the biggest problem with this whole issue is that people are bringing recyclable material, whether it's leaves or brush, or up to the recycling center all the time. And we don't have, and we haven't had in the past, at least to my knowledge, a way to recycle that, to chip the brush, to get rid of the Christmas trees. And you'll see that there's another article on here for $10,000 to pay Waste Solutions to pick up, I believe.
I don't think it's for Waste Solutions.
Article 17. And, my point is, if you got the tree to the house without calling Waste Solutions, and then get the tree up to the recycling center, all people are looking for is an option to get rid of their Christmas tree. I am not interested in spending $10,000 to have Waste Solutions.
That's not what the article says.
Well, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's take care of Article 12.
I think it is.
We'll get to the Christmas tree article when we get there. What's the pleasure of the board on Article 12?
I have a question. Does the Board of Health have more than one revolving fund?
Yes.
They do? Well, this doesn't specify which revolving fund.
We would specify the revolving fund. They have, I think, a couple, don't they?
Well, shouldn't they be specifying it in their article?
I guess, from my perspective, I have a problem with somebody want to reach back in time. If the town meeting authorized an article or a revolving fund at a given point in time, and now they're trying to reach back to recoup money, well, what's to say, well, I'll reach back a year, why can't I reach back 2 years? And I think, although generally I defer to elected boards for their right to put it before the town, I don't know that this is good policy in my opinion, but...
I don't think it is, but nonetheless, it's proposed.
All right, Mr. Moderator, would you?
Just related to what Andy just said, it'd be helpful in this article if you could actually name the revolving fund, would be great, but at a minimum just say the Board of Health's revolving fund. And related to that, I don't mean to jump back, but if I may, in Article 10 is the abbreviation IBPO, Local 393. Just for the benefit of the voters who aren't familiar with town government, if you could spell that out, International Brotherhood of Police Officers, so they know it's for police officers. In Article 6, when we're getting protective clothing for new hires, if you could say for the fire department. I mean, I know it's a petition by the fire chief, but I think it's just helpful if it's in the article, so we don't get that question from somebody who just wants to ask a question. Thanks.
They'll get it anyway.
We'll clean it up. This is only a draft.
All right. Well,
But it would be very nice if the fire chief would propose the police chief's articles and the police chief proposed the fire chief's articles. That won't happen. Yeah.
All right, we're still in Article 12. What's the
We
pleasure of the
will
board?
identify the appropriate revolving account.
Okay, so you want to table that for now, until we
No,
know
I
what?
mean, I guess you
decide
can
what you
either
want.
You wanna
decide
leave it on
to
the
put it on
warrant
or
or
leave it off, take it off.
I would make a motion to approve, to include Article 12 with the proper wording and the wording as to where the funds will actually end up going and what the purpose of them will be.
Okay, is there a motion? we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we got a motion by Kenny Coyle, a second by Andy Burbine. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Article 12 is on.
I just want to state that I do so only under the premise that it's an elected board. I think they have a right to present themselves before town meeting, but when we get to that second phase of voting on it,
Whether or not we
I
agree
have
with
something
it.
to say, yeah.
It might be helpful if maybe somebody could show up and explain a little bit, you know.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
It might be helpful if a member of the board showed up and explained what their intentions were, or how it got there, why we're going like this. Just a thought.
Yeah.
Okay. Article 13, to see if the town will establish a civilian dispatcher and pre-arrival emergency medical dispatch department in the amount of $121,680 by the police chief. John?
Well, this is for half a year of funding, and it does not include benefits. So if we add, 6 dispatchers or 7, we're talking about the 121,680 plus at least 9,000 on average for health benefits. I know.
For 6 months.
This is 6 months.
Okay. Plus
We're
benefits.
talking about, if we're doing joint dispatch, if we're looking at dispatch for police and fire, and we're housing it at the police department, which would be proposed by the chief, then you're talking close to $500,000 a year, which we would have to increase our base budget by $500,000 a year. The flip side of this is that we don't really have a choice in the requirement to provide pre-arrival emergency medical dispatch. It's either that or train all the police officers and pay them their hourly wage to do
Okay.
pre-arrival dispatch.
Is this going to put one more officer on the street? Is this going to pull an officer out of the station, or would there still be an officer in the station?
No, by contract, there is still an officer in the station.
Okay. Is this,
So what would, I don't understand. Right now you have an officer in the station that answers the phone and dispatches. And it'd still have to be
Well,
an officer in the
the
station.
officer would now do administrative work, but he would have to be, by contract, stationed in the station, either to do watch, to perform,
Well, I understand that, but it
a
would
watch.
seem, I thought initially going in there, my mindset was when we were going to do civilian dispatching was to free up a professional firefighter or a professional
Well,
police officer.
It will free up. Right now, there is a need to station people for dispatch. There is also a need for administrative personnel. This is the, police chief's description of what needs to happen in his department. The 121 figure provides for civilian dispatch, which means that you're not going to have a dispatcher plus an administrative person. You're going to have just the administrative person. A dispatcher would be assigned to the street.
Well, that was the point. Then you already have 2 police officers there, is what you're saying, and one would go back on the street? You
That's
have a
my
dispatcher?
understanding.
I thought there was only one officer in the police station doing
Well, I think
dispatch.
there's an administrative officer at the department. I think
Maybe during
Kevin
the
might
day,
have some insight.
I think during work hours, but maybe the chief would have to come in here and better explain the situation. Now, this is for both, is this a central dispatch for fire and police?
No, it's just police.
Just police.
You need to double that number to do central dispatch for fire, because you need 2 personnel. One for fire and one for police, and they have to be cross-trained.
Sorry. Andy?
Is this something that has any chance of being implemented as a result of this? This seems to me more like an annual town meeting, sort of an article. Is there a reason this is
Well,
on
yes,
this warrant?
because we need, these dispatchers need to be trained prior to July 1st.
Do we have $121,000 to do this?
We'll have to find it, or we'll
And
have
that's
to do
only for
something.
6 months.
It's only
Kevin?
6 months.
If I could, I think the whole issue, and I go back, many, many years, when I was chairman of the county commissioners, and we established the Plymouth County Fire Mutual Aid Dispatch Network on a regional basis. We looked at that time, we established CMed, and that goes back more years than I care to think about right now. I think on the same premise, when it comes to civilian dispatching, I was chairman of the police station building committee. When we built that facility, we built it within the mindset that it could take care of all possible capabilities. I think we only need to look right now to the towns of Hull, Cohasset, Norwell, and somebody else, I think there was 4 of them, that formed and then statutorily formed their own entity for dispatching. I think perhaps maybe the thing to do at this stage of the game would be to look at the, for lack of a better term, I'm going to call it the Hingham model, because Hingham hosts it. Maybe mirror that, get together with have the town manager get together with the towns of Rockland, Whitman, Holbrook, so there's 4 right there, or anybody else that's in the contiguous area, with the idea that we would look at and going on the premise of looking at centralized dispatch for both fire and police. Now, I know...
Regional? Are you talking regional?
Regional, yes.
Holbrook already does regional.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
But you still have 2 other towns.
We
I'm
still have
sorry.
2 other towns, and I guess the question becomes is that I'm not ready to just jump up and say Holbrook's the answer. You know, I think we built the station, the town of Abington put money into that facility with the idea that maybe we can capitalize on it. And, you know, kudos to Holbrook for doing what they did, but I think from our perspective, to get the best bang for our buck, I think I would be looking at, you know, some of the other communities involved to see what their participation rate would be as well, you know, from that standpoint. So I mentioned the surrounding towns, but there may be, you know, reach further down. You may have, you get down into the, you know, the smaller towns, Hanson, Halifax, that may be interested. I know when I was in Kingston, there was a move afoot to try and look at combining those communities as well. So I think we have the facility, we paid for the facility, I think we should capitalize on it.
Mr. Frame?
Just, and I agree with you 100%, Kevin, because that's really a little bit, take it back, because I thought we were investigating civilian dispatch, and I know we had language problems with some of the local unions coming forward, but I thought there was a movement underfoot to look at Holbrook or investigate it, but apparently not. But my question is...
No, we have.
Is this being implemented across the state, like as the town of Rockland or the town of Whitman? Are they required to do the same dispatching services or the same training to their police officers or professional personnel?
Yes, absolutely.
So wouldn't they have an inclination, like Kevin's speaking to, of saying, listen, this is going to cost us a ton of money, why couldn't we or shouldn't we get involved with other towns or regionalize?
But to that point also, I just was at a seminar at the College of the Holy Cross 2 weeks ago, where the Department of Revenue has funding available for regionalized services, and they specifically called out the Hingham Agreement, and they said, look, we would love to be able to have towns band together for that purpose, and we have monies available. So I guess in concert with that, what I'm saying is that we have a facility that we paid for, and we're continuing to pay for. Why not avail ourselves of the possibility of grant funding that is out there and try and partner and looking at these other towns? I really don't want to put our eggs in one basket, you know, in terms of what the, you know, just with Holbrook. I think we should look at more of the other. What is Rockland and Whitman, you know, are they interested? And if they're not interested, then fine, we can move accordingly. But I think, you know, we have more of an identity at that end of the spectrum, and I think the idea that we can, if we can use our own facility and on top of that get grant money, and in terms of the, you know, identifying the, and I can't think of the language I want to use right now, but the pre-arrival emergency medical thing, I would submit that that's an unfunded mandate. And I would say that if funding hasn't been provided, then I think we should wait upon either the MMA or petition ourselves to the state auditor to say, we find that this is an unfunded mandate, then if we have to do the training, then we want the funding up front. So, you know, from that standpoint, if there's a statutory obligation, which appears that there is, that we have to have, you know, pre-arrival training in place, then A, if there isn't money available, then I think we should wait upon the state auditor to make a declaration of the same. Second of all, I think that we should pursue further a regionalized basis of centralized dispatching to include both the fire and police departments, and avail ourselves of any grants that are available from the Division of Local Services of the Department of Revenue, therefore capitalizing on what is out there now and what we've already spent, and I'll make that in the form of a motion.
Okay.
And I'll second it.
Okay. Chief, are you prepared to answer any questions regarding, can you answer a question?
Only for fire, no?
For fire, the facility at the police department for dispatch, do they have sufficient infrastructure to take over your operation right now without any monetary investment? No. How much money do you think it would take to bring all the pull box systems into the police station? Do you know that?
Altogether, I think it was like 161, 165 roughly for the infrastructure for fire central station.
About
Central street station.
Okay.
And then the personnel.
And the extra personnel. You are, there's nothing in your budget this year for civilian dispatches.
I did request. On my capital request, I did request for central dispatch. I broke it into 3 options. Option A is doing exactly this, moving to the Abington Police Station. That was the most expensive option. That included doing this off the top of my head, it was about $165,000 for the infrastructure change, the infrastructure needs that we'd have to make the connection, if you will. And then it was about $265,000 annually the personnel would need. Option B would be just the $265,000 if you just put them at the fire station. You wouldn't need the infrastructure change. Option C, fire department only. This is not for the police, and I'm not trying to talk on the police article by any means, but strictly for fire, would be an interest into regionalizing with Holbrook for a fire dispatch with Holbrook.
Does Holbrook do police?
I don't think currently, regionally, I don't believe they are. Right now, they're just doing fire for the town of Sharon.
What I like about the Holbrook, now we're digressing into fire briefly, but I like it because it's not a long-term commitment. If you don't have to worry about laying people off and paying unemployment benefits, you don't have to worry about paying benefits. It's a one price upfront for the year. If you're not happy with the service after a year, you can go on to something else. That's what I like about Holbrook. It's not putting eggs all in one basket.
You could even opt out sooner than a year. They've offered the prorated.
Yeah, I think
This
for
is
that
only
kind of
for
money,
fire. I'm not,
it's not.
I don't think it's gonna work for the police.
I think
That wasn't my
Holbrook
question.
is a worthwhile option to look into, considering it's the cheapest and it's no obligation. I like that. But that's all I have. Thank you, Chief.
But just a minute, Chief, if you could. The issue then is that Holbrook is only relating to fire dispatch. It's not relating to...
Correct. That's true.
Police dispatch. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I think, then it goes back to my central question. I think that before we put all our eggs in one basket, and if it's a question perhaps on the fire end of things, if it's a yearly type thing that you can get out of it, I think that is something that should be considered on its own on a temporary basis.
Exactly.
I think the further question that I have is looking at this in its totality for a permanency down the road. And again, I will state that I think that, if you want to, based on your recommendation or through John, that look at the fire end of things, knowing full well it's on a temporary basis, I would have no problem with that. I still think that we should look at a regionalized setting, and I'm not going to rehash what I just said, but I think everybody understands.
I don't think, we have not, in my discussions in meeting with the chief on this, I think he was looking at central dispatch just for police on his side, and not the regional approach that you're proposing, which I think makes some sense. We have 2 issues here. One is, we have to meet a mandate by July 1st.
Just to that, as Kevin was saying, is that by statute? Is it a regular, who's all of a sudden imposed this mandate that we have to come up
Well,
with
it's not all of a sudden.
$121,000?
Most of the communities have moved to
Yeah.
this requirement years ago.
We're talking about the mandate is for pre-arrival
Medical instruction.
medical instruction. It doesn't say civilian dispatcher pre-arrival emergency medical instruction.
No.
I mean, we never talked about how much it would cost to train police officers.
And not that I'm opposed to doing a central dispatch or a civilian dispatch, but again, I'm not sure it belongs on the special town meeting warrant at this.
Okay, let's say
something we should
let's say
have
that
dealt
we
with.
do it, let's say we do it at in the annual town meeting.
That's April, the 1st of April.
That's right. But we can't spend the money until July 1st. By July 1st, we have to have this in place.
Oh, what's going to happen if we don't?
I don't know.
Nothing.
You
They're
get
not- I
foamed.
mean, we're going to lose our grant money that we're not getting. You know?
Honestly, I mean, you know, they're great on telling you what you have to do, but then not providing the funds for you to do it.
Well, I think in all fairness, is this, do you know, Chief, is this an OEMS requirement so that in order to continue with your licensing, or I don't know where it emanated from?
Yeah, because here's the thing. It's for police only, not fire.
That's correct.
The fire department provides emergency medical service. Why are the police looking for money for pre-arrival emergency medical dispatch if they're not going to be doing fire?
Two things if I could. First, I would caution against flirting with not reaching this mandate, because if any incident were to occur that they felt a life could have been saved, had we had this in place, I think you're going to incur incredible liability for the town. So just keep that in mind. I don't know the actual implication for it, but that certainly would come. Holbrook is also possible, is a disclosure, Holbrook also could provide the service. It doesn't, from my understanding, definitely have to be the police. The police currently in Abington are the primary public safety answering point for 911. When you call 911, the police answer. If it turns out to be it's a medical emergency or a fire, they will download it to the fire department, who is the secondary answering point. Either the primary or the secondary, by the statute that this is written, can provide the EMD. Holbrook is currently doing, for the fire department in Sharon, as a secondary, the EMD. So, and we could get this up and running in relatively short time.
With Holbrook?
With Holbrook.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to take the EMD, that's not, but I do have to disclose that Holbrook could provide that service.
Do we have any idea what the cost is to train our people and meet the mandate
Well,
for
the cost of
EMD?
training is zero. I mean, you don't, for medical dispatch, I think the training is not the cost, it's the overtime that you would have to pay the officers to receive the training over time.
Oh,
I think it's
okay.
40 hours initially. It's a 2-day class, then it's 40 hours, I think, initially, and then it's 16 hours Con Ed.
Continue with it.
So, and that's times how many people you have.
Chris,
I'm sorry, Mike.
when you say a relatively short period of time, 2 months, what would be the cost if you're gonna, it seems to me if you're looking at consolidating with the police department, you have to move lines and everything into that. So would you have to do the same thing to Holbrook, obviously, and get the lines or the trunks over there?
Holbrook-
Would the cost be the same to tie into Holbrook as it would be to tie into the police department?
Holbrook Fire, one of the employees at Holbrook Fire is the Norfolk County Communications Director, who has basically set up all of Norfolk County with microwave technology. And he's estimating for Abington, for us to connect with Holbrook, it will be about $25,000. I'm a little nervous with that number. I think that's low, to be honest with you, but they've assured me that it should be in that area. And then it would be about $100,000 annually for the service.
And then the microwave technology is trustworthy, it's safe, and been tested?
Norfolk County's, most of the country is using that now.
Chief,
we
if I
use
could, so if you have a box on the street now, and somebody pulls the alarm on the street, this technology will allow it to go to Holbrook, and then they can then dispatch from Holbrook?
Correct. They're doing it right now in the town of Sharon. And that's
Yeah,
what's
but
driving it for
is
the fire
Sharon
department.
all microwave, or are they line? I guess my question to you is, what happens just by virtue of, pick a street corner that has a box on it? Somebody pulls a box. What happens with this technology? Will that go to Holbrook?
Yes.
It will.
It goes back to the Abington Fire Station,
Yeah.
and then a box, if you will, it goes into a box that gets, one way or another, directed over to Holbrook. They would receive it, which, and that's the main thing driving this for me. I'm not trying to compete with the police on this? If I can finish on this, please. I'm not trying to compete with the police. I'm looking at the numbers on this too, and I'm not quite sure if this is going to work for the fire, because the second half for the dispatches for the fire is the second $250,000 a year. Now, we're constantly dumping out of our station still, and we have nobody to monitor those fire alarms if they come in, if we're out in a medical emergency
That was
or
my-
fire.
that was my question.
This would address that.
So, I'm sorry, Chris, for you. So this would free up a professional firefighter?
Well, no, there's no one in the station.
Not necessarily freeing up, but it's going to monitor an alarm coming in that currently is not being monitored, as well as give us the
All right, there'd be
communication.
somebody there.
Correct me if I'm
Okay,
wrong, Chief.
that's-
Right now, if their station's empty and they're out on the street and a box comes in, it comes in beeping over your radio,
But we don't know what it is.
and you don't know what it is. You're counting beeps, okay? This way, it goes to Holbrook via microwave technology, and it gets dispatched directly to the officer in charge of the shift, and they give you the address.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Holbrook would give you the address.
Yeah, they-
would instead of counting beeps over the radio, you'd actually get the address.
Beeping over the radio tells us nothing. We just know a box is coming in. There
that's
is
all
no
you know?
code to tell us. That would go to Holbrook, who could then read the digital readout of that and tell us what box we have.
So how do you know now when you get beeping on the radio?
We don't.
Yeah, that's a problem.
It's a major problem.
Okay. I just want to be clear, from my point of view is, I'm not trying to cut anyone's, wish list, but at the end of the day, for me, my goal is to put more police on the street. And if we can save money in dispatch, that means more police on the street. That's my concern. If we can save money in dispatch, it equates to more money for
Well,
cops.
the Holbrook cost is about $100,000.
That's short money. It's
Plus
$160,000.
$25,000 on a capital expenditure for one-time equipment that Holbrook needs. We don't pay salaries, we don't pay benefits, we don't pay anything.
You don't have to worry about laying people off and
No.
paying
I
unemployment
like
insurance.
Selectman Donovan's idea about establishing central dispatch, in the town of Abington, if we have the ability to do that. That's going to take a while to develop. That's not going to happen overnight.
I don't think it's going to happen.
So my question is, what do we do in the meantime? And that's the real big issue. The real big issue is we can spend the $100,000 and get dispatch for fire. I don't believe we can do the same for
The police.
police. And I'm looking at hiring an additional 6 bodies. I know that the breakdown, is anywhere from $19 to $22 an hour. $22 for the supervisor and $19 for the dispatchers. And that seems to be reasonable. We're talking about a salary of about $40,000 for the dispatcher and $45,000 for a supervisor. And if we're talking about 5 dispatchers, because one is already involved in the E911 grant that's paying for that person's salary, so there's a total of 6 dispatchers that are needed just on the police side. If you do central dispatch and double those numbers, you're going to need another 6 on the town side. That's another $43,360. We're talking close to
Sorry,
half a
Andy, go ahead.
million dollars.
It seems to me as though you have a short-term solution for this emergency medical dispatch requirement, right? The town of Holbrook, doesn't that seem to be the way to go? Short-term, at least?
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that. The problem, from my perspective, is that it only solves one half of the equation, and that's
I understand
probably all that we're going to be able to solve.
But you can't solve the
this
whole
year.
thing, I don't think, at this point in time.
Well,
But here's the thing, I know Holbrook Fire and Holbrook Police share a building. Do we even know if they could do police?
I don't know.
I'm not asking you, Chief. I'm not asking you, Chief. I'm
I don't know.
throwing, can we find out?
Yeah. But again,
Mike.
we have to also keep in mind that the police chief has to be part of this discussion and part of the
He will be,
solution.
most certainly.
Not not part of, making this decision independent.
And I really,
I'm just
no,
telling
no,
you.
no chief wants to relinquish control. That's why I'm not so optimistic about regionalizing with Whitman or Hanson, because more and more towns are building new police stations. So,
Well, I think if we take that attitude, then nothing will get regionalized.
it's, well, here, it's 2011.
I think we have to explore it. I think
Yeah.
the question is, we can't presuppose
Yeah.
what other towns may or may not do.
But
I think the central question is, it doesn't hurt to explore it.
Nope.
And I think that from that standpoint, we have an obligation to the taxpayers to do just that, from that standpoint. And I think as I'm sitting here listening, I think we've got an apple and orange approach here. I think we're looking at the short-term solution. I don't see an article in the special relating to what we're talking about for Holbrook, so I'm a little lost as to how we got morphed into that. Second of all, I think the question becomes is either we take this article off the warrant and instruct the town manager to look at the regional approach as I just indicated, or we consider if the fire chief hasn't put forward an article, as of yet, then the question of going to Holbrook, in my mind, is moot as it relates to this warrant article. So I guess the question before us is either we include it so we can have this discussion at town meeting, or we take it off and do the research that I think is required, in terms of looking at it on a regionalized approach. Because I think if we're going to approach it the manner in which we're trying to do it tonight, we're putting the cart before the horse. I think we need a lot more information right now.
Well, I wouldn't disagree with that approach. However, you have to have buy-in from the department heads that they want to move in this direction. And I haven't heard that up until the suggestion tonight. So that regionalization in Abington, if we want to look at that as a solution, is not an immediate cure to this issue. It's a longer-term cure, if at all.
and like you said, you don't know how we talked about Holbrook. I don't know how we started talking about regionalization, because it's not in here either. But
Well, it is on the warrant, it is on the capital plan.
on the capital plan, okay. But I just, I've been in the fire service for 15 years, and there's always talk about regionalization, but it never happens. It never happens because nobody wants to make that leap, and nobody wants to give up that control. When I'm talking about various, chiefs in both branches of public safety. Andy?
If this warrant weren't presented by the chief of police, and there's nothing as far as from the fire department, the whole purpose of this, to me, it seems, is this emergency medical dispatch. Is that not the case? Isn't that?
I don't know.
Or I don't know if that's just a way to get central dispatch to the police department, but.
I don't think there's any.
I guess my question,
there's no-
question would have been, if this mandate is coming down the road on July 1st, and this wasn't presented by the police chief, did we have a plan on what we were going to do to implement this emergency medical dispatch requirement?
The only plan that the chief has right now is central dispatch.
Well, it shouldn't just be the police chief, it should be you, the fire chief, the three of you working together to come up with a plan.
We have had discussions about,
But no plan.
well, the plan is, in my opinion, that we're going to need to do regional dispatch for one side of the equation and civilian dispatch for the other side of the equation, because I'm not going to get a cooperative approach. Actually, I can tell you, where's his email? The chief's, I just had.
Yeah, I
it.
know.
Okay. Please note that I fully realize and support your belief that we should combine police and fire dispatch and also hire civilians for the fire department. With that in mind, while I hope that this is not the case, I am uncertain if the town will be able to support civilian dispatchers for both disciplines. If the town cannot support police and fire dispatchers at this time, I would respectfully request that you fund the police department side of the equation. This request is due to the fact that we will be required to give callers this additional information on or before July 1st deadline. In order to meet this time frame, I will need time to advertise, interview, hire, train, and schedule E911 civilian dispatchers in advance. That's the police side. The fire side can go ahead with the regional approach with Holbrook for $100,000, which is not on the warrant side. It's on the, if you look at the
Yeah,
capital
it's on the
plan
capital plan, yes.
for, what's
Yes,
it-
central dispatch, $161,000.
No. Regional dispatch, central dispatch is 161 just for the equipment plus personnel.
Okay.
If you look further down in the option list, you'll see that, under fire, that there is an option for $100,000 for regional dispatch and $25,000 for capital. So that's $125,000. If we were to do both, we're gonna need a total of 300 and some odd $1,000. I don't know if we have the financial wherewithal to do that in this budget at this point in time.
You don't know? You know.
I don't
You know
believe we do.
You know what the answer to that is. We don't have the funds to do that.
Unless we find it somewhere. And we're laying people off to do that.
See, that's the problem.
I think two things. Number one, I think you need to explore, like Kevin has suggested, regionalization, but I also think you need to approach Holbrook. Only one side of this needs to do this emergency medical dispatch, right? It could be either the fire or the police, it doesn't have to be both. Is that my understanding?
Primary or secondary.
Right? Okay. So, again,
I am not quite
to
certain.
me, the
if
whole purpose of
police-
this being on here is because of this emergency medical dispatch.
correct.
So if we can find a better way to do it, let's
$100,000,
find
we'll
it.
do it.
Right.
It's a lot cheaper than 243 plus
And
100.
then work towards a central dispatch at some point in time, but
And if Holbrook doesn't work out, we can always opt out.
Well, we're gonna have to make it work because we're not gonna have an alternative.
Okay. All right.
If we just do Holbrook for regional pre-arrival medical instruction for both police and fire, then we have to make it work because we're not gonna have any alternative as of July 1st.
Okay. All right. What's the pleasure of the board?
I mean, I'm a little confused. Your motion was to look into regionalization, right? But it wasn't to include the article. It was just a separate motion, correct?
I didn't make them,
I thought
no
you...
motion on the article.
Well, I'll make a motion to...
We get Kevin's motion first.
That's
You
what I'm
have to
talking
vote
about.
on one motion at a time.
Okay, can you repeat your motion, Kevin? I'm sorry.
And it was seconded by
Yes.
Mike.
Okay, do you remember what it was?
Yeah, to look into centralized regional dispatch for both police and fire for the towns of Abington, Rockland, Whitman, offer it to Holbrook, or any other community using the, for lack of a better word, the Hingham model, to look to the Department of Revenue Division of Local Services that they have grant funding available for the same, to look further on the question of the pre-arrival requirement, and to find out what type of a mandate, if that is, if any. If it isn't a mandate, then I would submit that it's an unfunded mandate, and either through MMA or on our own, petition the auditor to make a declaration of the same, which would then avail ourselves of monies on two counts. One, on monies available to fund, hopefully, any unfunded mandate, wherever this mandate is coming from, and two, looking at the regional aspect of things.
Okay, now that doesn't have anything to do with keeping Article 13 on the warrant.
That's the initial motion here.
Can you repeat it? Oh, okay.
Dory had to get another pen. Yeah. Ran out of ink.
I'll second. This is a little bit, there's been a lot of questions that weren't answered here, a lot of good questions were asked, a lot, I don't know this, I don't know that. I actually, as a member of this board, thought that we were exploring some avenues of regionalization. I think that going forward, it's way too big of a decision to make, not having more information on regionalization, or maybe, who knows, maybe it's wiser to go alone. I don't know that just yet, but I would certainly, I welcome the chief. I think he was very informative and very helpful in seeing what might or might not be available. And I think that the board, in order to make a decision on this, we really, really need some information. It's very important for the people of this town, the safety of the personnel and everybody going forward to not have that. So I'll second Kevin's motion, if he allows me.
You already have.
I didn't know if I'd accept that, you know.
Go ahead, Andy.
Just a question to you, John. Are you comfortable with that approach as far as at least looking forward is?
Right, I think that that's more of a long-term
Yes.
solution. It is not an immediate solution. What I will do is I will try to get the police and fire and some personnel from both departments together to investigate a short-term solution.
Well, that was going to be my motion after we voted on this one.
With a long-term resolution in the next 2 to 3 years. So if we look at, if this issue, we have to have a short-term solution for July 1st. We will petition the state, we'll go through the auditor and file that unfunded mandate route. That's going to take a little longer in relationship to getting any money from the state, if any is available. But we will search those avenues out.
You just maybe find out from other town managers how they're handling the situation too. You know, how is Whitman handling, how is Rockland handling? Between town managers, maybe not so much.
Yeah, I can send out a letter to the managers in the immediate area and find out what their needs are, how they are conducting themselves as a pre-medical arrival. Are they doing central dispatch? Are they interested in a regional central dispatch with Abington?
That's great.
You know, so we'll explore those options. Longer-term solution, we still need a short-term resolution to a long-term problem.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I make a motion to include Article 13
Second.
and ask the police chief to attend our next meeting so he can explain in further detail.
To include it?
To include it, correct.
I didn't hear that.
I got a second.
Kenny, what are you saying?
He made a motion to include Article 13 on the warrant.
And ask the police
Oh,
chief
okay.
to attend our next meeting so he can explain it. Maybe we can tweak it a little bit, maybe we can include other things, right? We can rearrange the articles, this is just the first draft.
No, by that point, it'll need to be
Only
closed.
the
But at the next meeting would need to be posted.
next meeting is a week before the town meeting.
And at that meeting, we will be deciding whether or not we're going to support or not support the articles.
Correct.
Right. But by that time, the town manager will have a better understanding as to, you know, because maybe, you know, this might be a good point where the chiefs can get up there in town meeting floor and explain the whole issue.
Oh, yeah.
But the more important issue is where's the money going to come from?
That was going to be my question. Where is the money going to come from?
Yeah, the whole point of civilian dispatcher is to increase police on the street, not, you know, further diminish the
No,
force.
but there will be a police officer in the station. That's still going to happen whether you have civilian dispatch or not because of the contract.
Okay, understood. All right. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
One opposed?
No, 2 opposed.
Two opposed. Okay.
Okay. Moving right along.
Article 14, to see if the town will vote to sell 168 Bank
Well,
Street.
can I just make,
Sure.
back on that same thing, can I make a motion, which I was going to make, which I think you suggested you were going to do anyways? is
I'm
that
going to
you-
do it anyway.
All right, but just that you investigate with the
I'm
town hall.
going to appoint a committee of 4 people, myself included, that are going to meet with and discuss regionalization and central dispatch and all of the options in between for a long-term and a short-term solution. Looking at those short-term solution now and planning for the longer-term solution.
When do you think you can get back to us with that?
Before town meeting, I can tell you
All
that
right,
much.
but as long as that's the case, I won't make a motion, I'll just go on your word that you'll get back to us before town meeting.
Yep.
Fine, thank you.
Article 14, to see if the town will vote to sell 168 Bank Street, map 23, lot 172, the water department facility in accordance with Massachusetts Housing for First-Time Home Buyers. Said proceeds to be recorded in the sale of town-owned land fund or take any other action relative thereto. John?
This is an opportunity for the town to partner with affordable housing for first-time home buyers and open the program to Abington residents, particularly young families who want to reside in Abington but might find it financially prohibitive. The housing finance program allows first-time home buyers to have about 3% down and 3% for home repairs. This would require the town to partner with Mass Housing Finance to make sure that the property is affordable. We could sell the property with a deed restriction that would allow future first-time home buyers to then purchase the property in later years. We've done this, I've done this in a number of different communities that I have been involved with. And what it does is it provides an opportunity for first-time home buyers to own a piece of property in the town and to finance that either with banks that work with Massachusetts Housing, which would be, there's the bank on 18, not too far from Town Hall, Harbor One, and I believe Rockland Trust are the two banks in town that provide this type of funding. I've looked at Bank Street, we have records stored there now. We could, the property value is about $181,000 at this point in time. I would be more inclined to try to sell that property with the stipulation that it go to a first-time home buyer in the town of Abington for a reduced property sale, maybe half, $90,000. It puts it back on the tax rolls. It hasn't been on the tax roll since 1912.
It doesn't go on the tax rolls at the full amount, it goes at the discounted amount, correct?
No, I believe it goes on the tax rolls at the value, the full value.
Really? Okay, can you look into that?
I think you said it was the full value.
I thought low-income housing like that was an abbreviated
It's not
value.
low-income housing. It's not low-income housing. This is not for low-income housing individuals. This is, it is first-time home buyers. They can, they're 80 to 120% of the
No, there's no...
affordable,
Yeah.
Kevin, you know, the affordable housing figures for families of one through families of six. I mean, a family of six could make $145,000 a year and still be able to afford this.
Okay.
And what they do is provide all the renovation to it. That's
The financing for the renovation.
For the renovation.
Right. So this is what we're thinking. I think it's a good idea. Maybe,
Mike?
Just, how big a lot is that? How big a-
That's the only thing I just...
It doesn't seem like it's very big.
it's a little bit smaller than your lot.
It's
It probably is. I mean, I pay much as like it was 15 acres, but that's okay, that's a different issue.
Well, you shouldn't be talking. Don't you have a relative on Bank Street?
I actually do, yes.
I saw you walking Rudy
No,
on
I
Bank
mean,
Street.
is it big enough to support, obviously you could get a variance.
Well, it's a buildable, it's in a residential neighborhood, so we want to bring
I
it back.
understand, but it's a town-owned building, and years then, they didn't follow any rules or regulations, they did what they...
Well, I'm assuming that the lot is, I think, 5,000 square feet,
Jesus, if it's that.
and the building is 12,000? I mean,
No, that's a
excuse
big
me.
building.
1,200 to 1,500 square feet. It's a nice little starter home for somebody.
All right, that's fine.
I move we include the article.
Second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. All righty, let's see. Article 15, to see if the town will vote to sell the single-family house located on 22 South Bedford Street. Said proceeds to be recorded in the Strawberry Valley Golf Course account for capital improvements to the golf course.
Golf course is going to have major improvements coming up, and if we can sell the house, and we'll check as to whether or not there are any restrictions in our ability to do so before we proceed with this article. If there isn't, I think that this is a viable option for us. Right now, we're a landlord. We just finished remodeling that house not too long ago.
No.
I don't like to be
Get it back on the
landlord
rolls.
in the public sector.
Move we include on the warrant.
Okay, second?
Second.
Mike,
I figure-
second.
I
Any
figure if I
discussion?
talk long
Kenny?
enough, they'll
Yeah, wouldn't
include
the money
everything.
for this go into the town-owned
Just a
land
ship,
fund?
yeah.
John,
Yes.
Kenny's got a question. Wouldn't money from this proceed go into the town-owned
The
land fund?
sale of town-owned land fund, even though it's
Which one is this now?
the golf course,
The golf
even though... the
No, it's
golf-
part of the golf course.
I understand that, but the golf course was purchased by the town. I mean, it would be the same like at Griffin's Dairy, if the property was sold up there, that would go to the
But
town.
this is an enterprise account? The money would have to be kept separate from the town.
But now, so the Bank Street property, even though it's owned by the water department, It's not.
All was owned by the town.
It's owned by the town.
This property is owned by Strawberry
Does the
Valley.
water department know you're selling that?
Well, they turned it over to the town. Paying the light bill. It's all, that's the difference. This is a enterprise account. The money would have to stay within the Strawberry Valley golf course account.
You have town council.
She's looking at it now.
She's reviewing, we'll have her comments by Friday.
Okay. I'll move we include the article.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Article 15 is all set. Article 16, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds the sum of $15,015.13 for an unpaid bill to Koppelman and Page, $2,000 to DEP for the unpaid portion for cleanup of the police station, or take any other action relative thereto. John?